Hello and welcome to the final World Tour cycling race of the 2014 cycling season, and welcome also to Beijing, the People's Republic of Chinese capital. And it's here where we'll see the final showdown over the next 5 days of racing. And for the first time we'll venture away from the city of Beijing and go up into the mountains some 200 kilometers to the north of this capital. All these famous sites we've seen now for the past 3 years here in the Tour of Beijing, and this will be the 4th edition and sadly the last edition of this race, which has become the iconic end to the World Tour series. I'm Phil Liggett and I hope you'll join me now for the next 5 days of racing as we bring together 17 World Tour teams and 135 of the best cyclists in the world. And we'll be seeing plenty of the Great Wall of China as well. We'll have stage finishes right in its shadow over the next 5 days of racing. We'll also have uphill finishes as well, repeating the successful mountain stage of 1 year ago. And we'll be kicking off with our opening stage today from Chong Li, which is an area which is well known as the northern part of Beijing's famous ski resort. So the Chinese also have a second home here, which is about, at the moment, 3 hours drive from the city centre. This is what it all began yesterday, the team presentation in the town of Chong Li, in the theatre here, and all the teams are brought to order from the start. First on was the defending team, Movistar here, and the man who's defending his title this time around, Benya Instausti, who won the event last year, and if he wins this year, he'll be one of only 2 cyclists to have won this event, because the other 2 victories going to Tony Martin. Talking of Martin, this is Dan Martin, who comes here hot off the heels of a victory in the Tour of Lombardy. He's among the favourites. Française des Jeux have a very good strong team here, as do indeed the Trek Factory racing team, sadly these days now without Jens Voigt, who's just retired after taking the world hour record, but they've got good candidates for victory too. Second left there, Adam Hansen, completing this last September his 10th in a row Grand Tour with the Tour of Spain, where he also won a stage. And the Belkin Pro Cycling team as well, Kreiswijk here, also have a good sprinter in Moreno Hofland, who also seems to ride well whenever he comes to China. Ed Bosenhagen here, riding his last event for Team Sky before he joins a new team next year. And the Orica Green Edge team, Dan Olympia on the far left. This is Matthew Heyman, former Commonwealth Games champion, as Ronaldo Nocentini here holds the bike on Team AG Tour Le Mondial. Bettencourt, who's looking to refine his good form, the Colombian climber, still searching for it at the end of the season. Everybody having a lot of fun and games here. Rigoberto Urán taking a selfie of himself and perhaps with the hostess as well on the stage last evening. He's among the favourites here for Amiga Pharma Quickstep, having finished twice these past 2 years, second in the Giro d'Italia, winning stages on both occasions. Team Katusha, who are turning out to be a great team this season, winning a lot of events, also providing plenty of firepower, as is Tinkoff Saxo, Rory Sutherland, who also leads that team this year. Team BMC, hot off their gold medal at the World Championships in the team time trial. They've got some riders here who want to impress, not least Philippe Gilbert on the left there, TJ Van Garderen, Samuel Sanchez, all candidates in a very, very strong team. This is Team Giant Shimano here, and their Chinese cyclist Yi Sheng on the left of our picture there, looking for a good result in front of his home crowd. Nelson Oliveira, the champion of Portugal, as part of the Lamprey squad. And they too have a Chinese candidate as well. Pressure on the handful of Chinese cyclists to do well. When this race first started, of course, we did allow a Chinese national team in it, but the sport in China has progressed. Xi Cheng now being the first Chinese cyclist to ride and finish the Tour de France last July. This is the route they face today as we go away from Chong Li. The hills, I'm afraid, when we join the action live, are all behind us because they've already crossed over the mountains. They're coming into the plains now, which brings them round towards the finish in Zhangjiakou. As we now get out to some live pictures briefly there on the plains, we now go to the sign-in, which was a couple of hours ago now. They've been in the saddle. David Lopez finishing third in this race last year, signing in there. This is Iran with his 2 second places in the Giro d'Italia, waving to the crowd. Sky hope for a sprint win today with Ben Swift, third in Milan-San Remo, right out at the start of the year. Greg Henderson, he's being talked by his team at least as a man who could deliver today, the Kiwi rider, no doubt en route back to New Zealand, perhaps, although he lives in Australia these days. Warren Barguil, he's the French hope here as well for a chance of a victory. Of course, might suit him. As they all managed to, that was a very small signature there, wasn't it? That was by Johannes Freilinger. Ji Cheng, all of Giant Shimano signing in. And Tony Martin, who is a real hot favourite for victory over the next 5 days here. And his Garmin's Sharp team brought a big team to try and help him out. TJ Van Garderen might give him a few problems. Maybe Philippe Gilbert, world champion back in 2012. The man who was world champion last year, Rui Costa, lost his title this time around in Ponferrada in Spain just the other week. He was fourth in this race a year ago. If the face looked familiar there, that was the younger brother of Nero Quintana. That was Daya taking part here for Movistar, and the winner himself signing in Benya in Sausti. In all, 135 riders on the lineup this morning when they rode away at 12:30 local time. As I commentate to you now, we're coming up to 10 minutes to 3. Looks as though Greg Henderson's still suffering a little bit from jet lag, or contemplating what might be over the next miles perhaps. Weather conditions, well, anybody that comes to Beijing know that it can be troublesome with the atmosphere, with the smog here, and today's no exception. It's not too bad, but it is murky circumstances, but it is warm, and not a bad day at all for racing up into the hills, which form part of the North China Plateau with the Inner Mongolia plains here. Field rolling away on the dot of just after 12 o'clock. And if you can hear all the noise, by the way, through my microphone, it's because I'm sat at the finishing line and the drums have just started. Now, it would not be China without the drum dances, and they certainly start the adrenaline going. They're just outside of my commentary box. Chance now to look around the region where we are racing through today between Chong Li and Zhangjiakou. It is this region which hopes will gain the Winter Olympic Games back in the future in 2022. Their bid went in November last year, and the feeling is they're going to go in as favourites to bring the Olympic Games here. That's a stone chat, European bird, which obviously comes to China as well. And when it's not snowing here, and the snow can fall up to a metre thick, it is famous for its spring flowers, and it's very temperate as summer. But really, the snow is down here for 150 days a year on average, and there are the drums, but that was in the winter. They're a bit different, although the same colour outside my commentary box right now. It really has become the Chinese playground here to the north of Beijing by about 180 to 200 kilometers, but the whole area will come that much closer in about 3 years' time when they complete the high-speed train line straight out of Beijing, and they'll be able to reach this in just an hour. And as the snows begin to thaw, of course, the spring flowers begin to appear here, and it is a beautiful, stunning area. 48% of the region is forested, although not this area of the North China Plains, where we're now looking down on live pictures of the race. And I can tell you there are 3 riders having gone from the gun today, some 300 meters after the start. Tosh van der Sande of Lotto Belisol is in the red jersey there, Jeremy Roy in the blue jersey of FDJ, and Julian Kern, the German cyclist, on the French squad, 82 on them, 18 there. They got clear straight from the gun today. And the rider in the red here has had a brilliant day so far, because he's crossed the top of all 3 hills of the day. The first one being something of a mountain, in first place. So he's the first leader in the King of the Mountains when that jersey is presented for tomorrow. That's the latest gap, 3:45, but I can tell you it's coming down rather rapidly because they were up to around 8 minutes. We never got a final check on it, but 7 to 8 minutes was official earlier on. And once they'll clear the hill now, although we're staying in these wide exposed roads just at the moment, as we drop down towards the finish, we're running on a sprinter's delight. And mood was split this morning whether a breakaway would succeed because of the difficult beginning, or indeed whether the riders would chase it down. I would say at the moment the riders have got the best chance of chasing it down. Julian Kern here, under 23 European champion in 2011. To distinguish himself as a young rider. His age is very much on his side just at the moment. There's the first view of the peloton. It should be 132 strong. No notification of anybody being dropped off the back. But you can see how exposed this is. Once the weather does turn, it's going to be very, very difficult, harsh conditions out here. We're not too far away from the Great Wall of China, but we won't be seeing that today. We'll see that a little bit later on over the coming days. We'll have one finish right under the arches. Team Sky have an interest today because all day they've been driving the race at the front here. Ian Boswell going over one of the climbs as best of the rest, as it were, on the third category climb after 64 kilometres. And Sky quite clearly have intent, and I would imagine it's to try and get Boasson Hagen perhaps to bring Ben Swift into the finish. And it is a sprinter's delight. Sharp left-hand turn at 350 metres from the line. They've got to be careful how they measure the sprint because they come into a headwind, which was quite strong earlier on, but it's still blowing, but not as strong as it was. They've been in the saddle now for just on 2 hours and 40 minutes. Distance today 167 kilometres, just about 100 miles. If you're watching from Great Britain or the United States. And now there seems to be quite a turn of urgency back there in the peloton. The organisation a little disappointed by the late abandon of Alejandro Valverde, deciding not to come. Once Alberto Contador pulled out because of his knee injury, there was no reason for Valverde, he felt, to come here because he would win the World Tour without competing. Valverde and Contador were locked together. And so those two big names pulled out, and going with them was Joaquim Rodriguez. But it is still one of the best fields we've had assembled in the 4 years. Many people think it is the best field. The withdrawal by Astana, who suspended themselves because of the ongoing drugs controversy within that team, and the two Iglinski brothers both confessing to the use of EPO. It's rather put a big stain on that team, and under their own membership of clean cycling rules, they've withdrawn from this event. So as we look through here now, overcast with very humid conditions, we can run you through the story of the day so far, I think, as we'll take you through the mount. This was the first sprint after 21 kilometres. Julian Kern proved best there, gets 5 points and a small time bonus of 3 seconds. Tosh van der Sande, Jeremy Auroi, and from the bunch, quite a few minutes back, was Bernie Eisler of Team Sky. Then we got into the first climb of the day. This was a second category climb. Van der Sande really showing his mettle now, ahead of Roy, the most experienced pro in the break, Kern, and from the peloton, Salerno and Cam Worth were sweeping up the minor points there. There was a third category climb that followed on a little bit further on. This was 38 kilometres into the race. Van der Sande unchallenged again, and Freilinger best from the main field. He got 1 point for that. And then the last climb of the day came at Lu Jiying, and that was 64 kilometres into the day, and it was a complete nap hand for Tosh van der Sande, so he'll be the leader in the King of the Mountains. And Ian Boswell sweeping up for Team Sky from the peloton, who were now chasing at that point. One sprint to come, before we go through right to the finishing line. Now you can join the conversation on Twitter, and it's hashtag TOB2014. Well, the good news is, of course, there's no sign of rain. A lot of these cyclists only arriving in town just a couple of days before, so it takes them a little bit of a while to shake out what can be up to 8 hours difference in their time zones. And also teams like Garmin Sharp, well, their bikes were retained in customs and they didn't get them until I think it was Thursday, so they were unable to even go training for a couple of days, but they've sorted that out. All is well, and I think Garmin Sharp probably setting themselves up as the team to beat before the start, although Sky are making it pretty obvious today, without perhaps a candidate for final victory. They've certainly got the candidate for the stage win if they can work it out. Now the last sprint today comes just 43 kilometers from the finish, and then we're running out onto flat roads, and I would expect to see that gap at 43k to go coming down pretty dramatically. Small figure there of Tosh van der Sande in that breakaway. Under 23 Liège-Bastogne-Liège winner when he was only 20 years of age back in 2011. And funnily enough, just about 3 months before the first ever Tour of Beijing was held. Quite a lot of the riders did get the chance to look at most of this course. They particularly went out and looked at the hills. They haven't done the run into the finish, I don't think. It's around about 90 kilometers away from the start as the crow flies. Of course, it's 167 for the way the field have raced into the northern China plain and onto the Inner Mongolia plateau. Heights vary here. We started today at around about 800 meters above sea level. You can get up into these hills and you can top over 2,000 meters, which is higher than the Col de Tourmalet in the Tour de France. That stands around 2,100 meters, and you can top out here around 2,200. Now, still working very, very hard on the front here. Ian Boswell driving the pack for Team Sky, but the whole team have come to the front. They lose Edward Boysenhagen at the end of the year as he goes across to the MTN Quebecer, who seems to be gathering big names for next year. Reported this week that they have applied for a World Tour license without comment from the UCI, and if that is the case, then they are aiming very much for the top next year, which has always been the ambition of the African team. They've built themselves up to be quite a force. If it does come down to a bunch sprint today, it's going to be a pretty intriguing one, and one that can catch out the commentator, I must confess, because there are some good finishes here in sprinting, but the top sprinters, as we would refer to them, are not really here. There are some very fast finishers, and I would think that Ben Swift, I would consider possibly the fastest sprinter in this peloton, if he can get it right, of course. This is Carlos Bentancur, who's dropped to the back. Been a bit disappointing this year after his start to the season, and things haven't really come good for him. He had a forgettable welter where he just sat at the back, or the back but one, almost as if he was racing to be last man in that race, and just didn't find his legs. But here he is, and he sits there at the back at the moment. This is also an area famous for the use of solar energy here, so you're going to see many thousands of those wind turbines as we go over the tops of the plains. Team Sky without their two most famous names, Chris Froome and Bradley Wiggins, not riding here. Froome's been here before. Boysenhagen to the right, third man in line there. Performed well in this event a few years ago. Two years ago actually finished third overall. Just sat at the back and having a look around here on Europe car is Brian Nolo, Frenchman. There's a view of all the windmills. I say there's plenty of them around here. This is the high point of the race at the moment. Pretty much the highest point we reach all week actually. It's taken 4 years, but this event has gradually moved away from the city of Beijing, been a little bit more ambitious. It's been a whole educational tour really for everybody concerned to bring the race into China, and the Chinese have really accepted this event, and it's gone bigger and bigger, but they've had to go little by little and gradually move away and visit some of the towns which are developing rapidly within 2 to 3 hours drive of the city of Beijing. And of course the roads are perfect for bike racing, and the riders were all saying that when they went training the road surfaces were excellent, good wide roads, they felt safe, and now we're seeing some of those roads. If there's any drawback, they're rather long and straight for the breakaways just now. This whole area, it's all part of the Hebei province in the Hebei Valley here, or mountain range, which is where they hope they're successful with their bid for 2022 for the Winter's Olympiad. And a lot of facilities already in, because a lot of people come here and enjoy their winter skiing. Some of the best cross-country grounds in China for sure abound here. The actual town where we started, Chong Li, 5 years ago was a village. Now it is a major city, completely built up. Julian Kern looking cool, calm and collected out there, but the camera's caught him grimacing a few times during this breakaway, but he's certainly done all he has to do to pull on the King of the Mountains leader jersey tomorrow, which is the first success for Lotto Belisol. They're actually hoping for success by the end of the stage here with Gregory Henderson, because the Kiwi, who actually lives in Melbourne these days with his Australian wife and family, is a very fast finisher. No sign yet of these boys missing out the turns, but on the other hand, the gap is coming down. We rely totally on what we see on the screen as far as time gaps go. We have no contact on the other side of the hills from where we are with the race. Henderson now well recovered when he crashed out and hurt his knee on stage 4 of the Tour de France this year, just after we got back over from its start in Yorkshire and in London, and then as soon as it returned to French soil he was out of the race, sadly. And the boys in black stamping on those pedals, trying to keep everything in order here. They've got plenty of time ahead of them on the 167 kilometers to go. Just looking at those faces, they're all riding to orders here. A massing of white jerseys from Orica, green edge just behind. Their success coming at the World Championships with a silver medal in the team time trial, and then another silver medal by Simon Gerrans in the World Road Race Championship. He's joined one or two illustrious Australians to finish in that silver medal slot, including Robin McEwen and Matthew Goss. The only gold medal going to Cadel Evans, who will retire in February next year. Well, clearly the pressure's on now. When you get a line this long, it's tough at the back just at the moment. The wind coming from the left. It's not a gale force wind. It's forecast, by the way, to rise steadily over the next four days of the race after this stage. A lot of people hoping the wind comes because it blows away the smog and the poor atmosphere. But of course it also makes for a hard bike race as well. Race finishing on Tuesday next week, and Sunday and Monday seem to be the crucial stages. A flick of the arm there by Julian Kern, calling through the most experienced man here, Jeremy Roy. Doesn't win many bike races, but he's a calculated attacker, is Jeremy Roy. He's 30 years of age now, and in fact he hasn't won at all this year, but he's a very good time trial rider. He's also reads a race extremely well. Well, you can see by the terrain here, this is a real tough countryside to chase through, but it's perfect for a chase. Once they sense the weaknesses in that trio up front, the peloton can gain time very, very quickly here. Once we top out, we'll start to descend slowly down to the finishing line, and it's a very fast finish. And everybody felt if the riders had chosen to race the mountains, it would have been a group that would have stayed away, a big group, mind you, to the finish. It looks as though the whole field is going to contest this finish, because I can't see three riders staying out in front. Well, the pack under pressure now, as you can see at the moment, and it's being caused by the wind, which I would imagine up on this hill, which is the high spot, judging by the turbines, it's causing problems. Now, I can't see from the helicopter there much in the way of stragglers, but I can see a peloton which is very much under pressure. We're approximately 55 kilometers from the finish. I've got to be approximate because I'm not absolutely certain, but they'll be starting to run away from the plains shortly and down towards the finish. And Sky have been making the pace now all of the time, really, certainly since the last hour and a half of the race. And it's a tribute to those three breakaways that have actually stayed away for as long as they have right now, because the peloton down there is leaving all the work to Sky. Looks as though Lamprey have an interest there at the moment. They have a good sprinter in their team. If there's any chance of reaching the finish, then watch out for Sacha Modolo. He was not well in the Tour de France, and he went out before we even left English shores rather, before we got into the Tour de France proper, which was his first Tour de France as well. I think he had 48 hours in the race before he retired, but he is a rider who does pack a very good sprint. So they're going to take an interest as well in progress at the front. He's had 7 wins this year, Modolo. Last one in the Tour de Suisse, Tour Switzerland in June. This rolling nature of the course now, this really bites on the legs here. They're riding into a headwind just at the moment. So as I see these riders, it's around 55 kilometers from the finishing line. Well, that's an hour and 15 minutes, maybe an hour and 20 minutes of racing. There's the flags. Now you get an indication from those flags. That wind appears to me to be sweeping from the left, pushing the peloton over to the right. Everybody scrabbling for wheels to stay out of that wind if they can. The boys on the left-hand side of this pack are going to take the full force. of the race. Adam Hansen on the far right, just disappeared off shot there, number 81. Incredible bike rider. He's ridden the last 10 Grand Tours at France, Italy and Spain. The last 10 in a row, finished them and won stages in the Giro d'Italia and recently in the Vuelta a España. Remarkable character. Maybe already on his way home to Queensland. He lives over by Cairns in Queensland. Nice little way to spend 5 days riding around China before going home to spend the winter, his summer, over in Australia. Former champion of Norway there in the centre of our picture, Edvard Bosenhagen. Dario Cataldo. All of these riders making the most of very good roads at least. This will make for a fast chase when the roads are like this. Camworth, Cannondale, and just in front of him there, just behind him rather. Didn't quite catch who it was actually. That's Camworth nearest camera in the lime green colours. All going in the favour of the chasers just now, and the road and the course will tilt in their favour for sure as we continue to go. So I can now tell you, we can confirm it is 61 kilometres from the finish at the moment, and the gap coming at me is 3 minutes and 5 seconds. Well, I can never fully understand how these turbines work, I'll be absolutely honest. Some go round and some don't. They're either just being built or are broken, I suppose, because there's certainly no shortage of wind up here. First 4 riders in the classification last year. If anything, it's a slightly more difficult course than last year, but will still favour the climbers. All 4 riders are here. The win, of course, was in Zhangjiakou last year. They just continually attacked on the climb towards the finish up to the temple last year. Dan Martin, and Martin answered everybody. He just couldn't answer the last attack in Zhangjiakou. And as a result, Dan Martin got the 2nd place overall. The year before, in 2012, he was the king of the mountains. David Lopez riding here for Team Sky. He finished in 3rd place, and the world champion Rui Costa was 4th. They're all back to gain this one. It's the last year of the contract with the world governing body, the UCI. And sadly, that means the Tour of Beijing, as we know it, won't be it in the future. This is the last one. 2 victories for Tony Martin. One to be anticipated when we started the first year with a time trial, but the second one, no time trial. He won a road race stage out on his own and defended successfully all the way to the end. Last year it was in Tausti, who says he's looking for the win again, but he realises it will be a little bit more difficult now because they'll all be expecting him to make the moves, and there are some riders here quite capable of taking the victory. Not least Dan Martin, on terrific form after a tough mid-term with his crash in the Giro d'Italia on Irish soil as well, which was very hard to take. There's no doubt now, as it's a roller coaster road, this one. They're going to be riding down here now 50 to 55 kilometres an hour. It's a dangerous place to be at the back half of the peloton. If the wind gets in amongst them, it'll split this bunch. Ricardo Zoidl just hanging on at the back there. He's the champion of Austria. Rides for Trek. captain on the road of this breakaway, for sure the man in the blue jersey, Jeremy Roy, well appreciated by his team, Française de Jeu, as the really solid member of that squad. Ridden the Tour de France 7 times and has always got to the finishing line, by the way. Best he's had to show for it was one day in the King of the Mountains jersey, I remember, back in 2011. But he's never not finished his 7 tours. Another month's time, I suspect the area here will be starting to be covered in snow. Up to 1 metre can fall here this time once the winter sets in. It's an area, the whole area has 4 seasons, just like in Europe, with the spring being particularly beautiful with its wildflowers and its forested areas. There's 4 major rivers course through the area as well in the Hebei province. And the peloton today, they're going to follow and see what Sky can do. Now Sky have been in this situation many times before and it's gone all wrong at the finish. Let's hope they don't make the same mistake again today, because there's a lot of sprinters teams are just going to allow Sky to do this. Still showing 3 minutes and 5 seconds at the moment. Tosh van der Sande is the Belgian rider in the breakaway. This is Julian Kern rather, he's a German. He's no relation to Christoph, by the way, Christoph Kern, who's a Frenchman. There we are, 58 kilometres left to ride. As we go through the feed zone here, the riders knowing now that they're over 100 kilometres into the race. Too many of these riders crossing over from the Tour of Lombardy, which was last weekend, to ride this, but Dan Martin, the winner, is certainly one of them. He's now got 2 of the monuments to his name, having won Liège-Bastogne-Liège last year as well. We're just about 16 kilometres here from the last sprint of the day. There's no real concern about the sprint among these riders. Does count, of course, for the sprint leader's jersey, but the points are biased towards the result of the day, so it's unlikely they can get a reasonable advantage here. Well, I was telling you all about Sacha Mondolo being the likely man for Lamprey, and I'm just hearing right now he's abandoned, which is a little bit of a surprise. It's Ala the Tour de France for him, out on stage 2 of the Tour, and now out on stage 1 here in Beijing. No update on that. We don't know if he's fallen or just been dropped. We were hearing stories of a lot of riders struggling at the rear of the peloton because of this speed and the crosswind, and quite a few small groups of riders have been left behind. One must presume at this stage that Sacha Mondolo is one of them. We're just about now at the high point. We've gone over the highest point of the day, but this is before we start to drop off this plane and head steadily downhill for the last 50 kilometres all the way through to the finish. And the trend is down, down, down. This is Edvald Bosenhagen riding for the last time in the colours of Sky before he goes over to MTN Quebec. First in, looking for his food bag. And I think just acknowledged there he didn't want it. Oh, he's going to take this. Here we go. Also, the feeding station quite a late on the stage today, coming in with only some 50 kilometers left to ride. It would normally be about 20 kilometers before this point, but maybe this was the only place to make it possible. Ride's a bit preoccupied at the back of the race right now. Team BMC, another team that's riding a high just at the moment too, and I think we can expect to see that team also challenged. They pulled out a brilliant team time trial in Ponferrada. Well, there's been no letting up of the pace, straight back into the swing of things here at the front for Team Sky. David Lopez just speeding through. In fact, it looks to me as though Sky have taken advantage to push on here, and anybody caught taking food at the back might be caught out. Philippe Gilbert here. He's a man who can sprint when he wants to. He's quite a dangerous finisher, Philippe Gilbert. He throws his feeding bag into the countryside. I'm just wondering why we're showing you the back of the field here, but let's have a look at it just in case. A little bit of a problem. Jettison the bag here. Is it going to go or is it not going to go? And the answer is yes, it is. Looked like the man struggling to get rid of that was Ryder Hejdahl, the Canadian rider on Garmin Sharp, the only Canadian to have won the Giro d'Italia, which he did last year, and a very good Tour of Spain a couple of weeks ago. It's going to be quite a murky finish because downtown at the finishing line it's already getting dark because of the fog, and it's obscuring the full sun completely. Team Belkin moving up towards the front there. They had an excellent ride here in the Tour of Hainan last year, and they won every stage of the race in China. We're expecting for some good results here this time around, I'm sure. It was Theo Boss who scooped the field there. He won the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 7th and 9th day, and his teammates won the others. And of course Boss won the race overall. Oh, I beg your pardon, he didn't win the race overall, no. Despite winning all the stages. That was won by the man that won the other 3 stages, Moreno Hofland. Hofland hopes to repeat today if he can deliver, because Theo Boss isn't here. Boss also changing to an MTN Quebecer next season. 2 minutes 40, the whiteboard saying that. Well, they know now they're going to have to really pull off something special, because they're reaching the point now where it'll shortly be all downhill. And at 2 minutes 40, 50 kilometers to go, it's unlikely they'll hold them off. They're also looking extremely tired just now. Ivan Rovny playing last man on the peloton here for Tinkoff Saxo. It's now saying 2:25, so they're continuing to lead the charge. Wind always pushing them over to the right. It's head to cross just at the moment. Makes for a tough ride at the back of the peloton. You can see the gaps between the riders. They're really hanging on just here. When they sense a low, they're trying to just get further up the peloton into safety, because at any moment, if the wind does get across that peloton, it'll break into groups. Of the North China Plain, where we're actually up in the northeast, away from the city of Beijing, up to 200 kilometers northeast of the city. Julian Kern still looking okay. Team Sky with 8 riders there, sitting up near the front. Looks as though Lotto might be coming up to give them a little bit of a hand now. Samuel Sanchez. He's the boy that a lot of the people think he hasn't got a contract for next year. He won't be with Team BMC, and he's actually riding very, very well. He'd be a good buy for somebody next year. Former Olympic champion, which title he won in Beijing in the Olympic Games. Well, the peloton seem to be hanging in there, because I don't see anybody down amongst the cars if they continue on. Kleiswijk from Belkin. Another man potentially has the ability here to win this race as he now develops. He's so often been the best young rider throughout his career, but now the winner of the Arctic Race of Norway, which is a new race in Norway, and everybody talking about how stunning that race is in the far north. In August. He didn't win a stage either, he just won the overall classification. He'll be looking long term here rather than thinking of a sprint win. All 8 members of the Sky team are here. They'll be resting with the one at the back, Ben Swift. Just taking a drink there. He knows the team are all working to guide him to the line today. And they've got the firepower at least to bring that breakaway back, while resting a couple of riders to try and lead Ben Swift out to the line. They've got to come off the bottom bend at 350 meters in the first half dozen riders, I think. It's a headwind sprint finish too. If they hit the front too soon, they'll fade on the line. It's the most difficult finish in that respect. Otherwise, it's a brilliant sprinter's finish. Wide, straight road once they come off that bottom bend at 350 out. The abandon of Modelo. It's taken away one sprinter's headache there, but watch out for Moreno Hofland of the Belkin team. and the youngster Rick Zabel, who ride on Team BMC, and he's the son, of course, of Eric Zabel, great sprinter from the Tour de France, 4 times winner of the green jersey there. 2 minutes coming down. All the hard work paying off here by Team Sky. Lamprey taking second wheel as a team. The other sprinter on the team, now Modelo has gone, is Ricchesi, Maximilian Ricchesi. Lotto Bellos, all the boys in red. Perhaps looking for a late attack from Adam Hansen. He's sitting right there. Or maybe looking to lead out Greg Henderson for the finish. Right now they're sitting pretty. They have a leader on the team for tomorrow in Tosh van der Sande. In the King of the Mountains competition, he can't be caught now. No more mountains today. He's won all 3 today. Good lead for him tomorrow in the King of the Mountains. Now it looks as though this is Van der Sande here as we talk about him. Not sure how he got in amongst the team cars, but I'm wondering if the other 2 have pushed on. It looks, I said earlier he was grimacing when the camera caught him out, and it looks as though Tosh van der Sande has used his energy up in the mountains. He has the lead in that competition. It might be a very wise decision here to just take it easy now and defend that lead if he can over the next 4 days. These can't afford to wait for him. And you see the referee's done what they call a barrage. They've opened the gap there from all of the cars so that Van der Sande has to cross that gap under his own power. .148, and in the distance there it looks as though Van der Sande has made the decision to go back to the peloton. It's all basically running down, down, down towards the finishing line now. And it makes sense to save the energy for tomorrow. In practice, in theory, it may be another bunch sprint at the end of the day tomorrow. But then we're going to find the hills a little bit more. There's only 2 third category climbs on the second stage. We go back to where we started today, to Chong Li, and race to Yanqing tomorrow. It's a finish the riders will know well, and Marco Haller got a good stage win there a couple of years ago, and then after that stage 3 and 4 are really for the mountaineers. 7 classified mountains on stage 3, which will make for a difficult day. And I think the next stage is even more difficult because we finish at the top of Miaofeng, a mountain which we visited last year in Mentogo. Grouping at the back here now, so the pressure may have eased off a little bit. Well, the cars have come forward, so it looks as though Tosh van der Sande has taken the decision. Enough is enough. Save himself for tomorrow. He's gone rapidly away from the convoy. .48 kilometers to go. You can bet your life Jeremy Roy will not give up. This is his speciality, and he'll stick to his guns. He's not been a big race winner over the years, but he's won some nice races. He's only won 8 races in his career, Jeremy Roy. But he was the King of the Mountains in the Criterium International last year. That's only a 2-day race, but he was the King of the Mountains because of his attacking style of riding. French teams on the attack, a Frenchman and a German inside those jerseys. But it certainly has been a great year for the French cyclists. A bit of a renaissance for the French team, second and third in the Tour de France. And because of that, of course, interest has come back into the sport in France. Still appear to be moving pretty quickly, but will start to tip downwards shortly. Well, we should have been through the sprint, although I saw no sign of it whatsoever, and there's no result come up on the screens, but we'll have to wait and see. By my calculation, it's still about 4 minutes ahead, so I think our computer is a little ahead of itself. Still about 4K to the sprint, I think. If they pick up Tosh van der Sande, though, it does mean there's a 1 second time bonus for best from the peloton. That could be important. Over the 3 editions of this race, it's a race which can be won by seconds. It was only won by 10 seconds last year, 40 seconds in 2012, and only 17 seconds when Dave Miller finished second to Tony Martin. And really, they were the time gaps in the opening time trial that stayed that way through to the finish. It's been a long breakaway. They went 300 meters after the commencement of the day. And now we've done 121 kilometers of the 167. 46 to go. Tough way to start your 5-day campaign in China. We just run across this famous North China plain here for an hour or two now. It's a roller coaster ride. There is Macklemore and Ryder Hesjedon alongside him, the Canadian. This is Pablo Lestraz ferreting around in his pocket for food. He's the oldest rider in the race. Not something I'm sure he wants to be reminded about. The youngest rider, by the way, is Caleb Ewan of Australia, and he is fast enough in the sprint to really impress today, and he knows it. He's a confident young man. This is his first World Tour race, of course, and really his first race in the colours of Orica Green Edge. We're just looking down there, the sign saying welcome to Zhangjiakou, which is the city we're racing to, and which is the city along with the region that's trying for the 2022 Olympic Games. Just a little way out of the town. Interesting now, but it looks as though Cam Worth has come up amongst them here for Cannondale to split up the chase or help out, whichever the case may be. Well, Pablo got himself caught out there, unless he just wants to go back to ask where his team car is. Years of age, Pablo Lestras. Hasn't won a race, in fact, since August 2011, when his last victory was a stage in, if I remember right, in the Vuelta de España, and with it came the race lead for a day. Oh, Jeremy Roy looks as though he's riding well within himself, tapping out the rhythm, knowing the inevitable will happen before the finish. The catch will come, I'm sure of that now. Now the peloton go across the same area there. Doesn't seem like 3 minutes to me, that. I reckon it's about 2.5 now. Back to the peloton. That's the city boundary. Still some 44 kilometers to race down to the finishing line, and in a couple of K the leaders should be going through the sprint point. Shouldn't be too difficult to find if we're staying in countryside like this all the way through. Of the 17 World Tour teams taking part, it looks to me as though we've probably got about 10 of them with sprinters capable of taking out the stage finish today. Still Boswell on the front for Sky. And there's the sprint point now, 100 meters away. There's no point in contesting it here, but and I think Van der Sande will still be up there for third place. It looks as though they are going to contest it though, and right on the line it was Jeremy Ra who I think just snuck it there over Ken. And that was an attack. He went for the sprint and kept it going, and Julian Kern decided that's enough for me. So with 43 kilometers to go, it is just the most experienced rider in the breakaway who's going to try and go it alone. Take the pressure off the peloton perhaps. If they catch another one, you never know. Just checked over to see if anybody's coming, and he's not. There you can see the crosswinds now, an attack here gone by BMC from the field. And this looks like Philippe Gilbert who's made a move here. Well, he's just a man to cause the attraction. He rode an extremely unselfish World Championship in Ponferrada, where he made all the racing towards the end to try and deliver Greg van Avermaet, his teammate, to the finishing line. They couldn't catch up with the winner, but on the other hand, he came very close. He actually crossed the line in the end in 12th place, the former world champion. Well, this is a planned move, the way he's checking over his shoulder, see if it's worth carrying on. Now, I'm not too sure, but I suspect that Van der Sande was caught, and so this is a 1 second time bonus for Philippe Gilbert for third place, if that is the case. We'll have to wait for confirmation of that, but you know, that 1 second, thinking long term on a 5-day race of this nature, Gilbert will get over these climbs. The peloton continues on. This is Moreno Hofland, who will look to try and take the sprint out today, winner of last year's Tour of Beijing. Well, if you go back through the years, this is a move Gilbert has made many, many times with great success. On the few guys who can ride away 50 kilometers from the end of a bike race and hold them off. If you're confident and he's got the form, don't write him off. One of the few Belgian riders from the Walloon area of Belgium to be so successful. He's won over 70 bike races, that man. Heading up to 2 minutes the spread. Must assume that Tosh van der Sande has come out of that gap and is somewhere in the pack for Team BMC. This is the lone leader now, Jeremy Roy. A couple of years without a win, looking for a chance here. There's a full rundown being given him there by Mario Ertz as to what is going on. It looks to me as though they've just swept up Gilbert there and got back into the routine of chasing by Sky. This is the long, super fast descent now as we continue down to basement level for the finish. You might get the odd little roller, but basically it's all downhill now to the line. Even in a bunch of 130, you can see how the teams seek out one another to ride in match colours so they can discuss tactics, keep their likely winners in the right place in the peloton. Movistar, the team with last year's winner on it, also beginning to move riders forward now. About 50 minutes of racing left, I would think, maybe slightly less because of the terrain that's coming up their way now. Now it's been confirmed that in fact Gilbert did get the third place finish, so he's got himself a 1 second bonus, which might be something before we get down to the finishing line. No doubt who won it. Now he's getting on with the job of trying to win the day. Now when he attacked, he had 43 kilometres left to ride. He's been out front for just 3 kilometres, Jeremy Roy. There's the confirmation of that result. Kern, Gilbert and Cam Worth. They're taking the 1 point for the sprint competition in fourth. Time bonus is only important, I think, long term to Gilbert. This is where his time trialing ability comes. He's had a couple of medals in the French time trial championships. Wow. Now he can get on with riding alone against the watch and trying to hold off 134 top professional bike riders right behind him now. Using every inch of the road here. The shortest way to the finishing line, Zhangjiakou. Almost as if Sky are taking them kindly to anybody helping him out here. They're quite happy to keep the rhythm. Just got Cameron Worth down there for Cannondale in the green. Everybody else from Sky. They're protecting the last 2 or 3 riders because there will be the lead out men for Ben Swift, who's at the tail of the bunch of men in black. Lotto Belisol seem to be keen for Greg Henderson as well, second string. I beg your pardon, it's Lamprey still there. Vicasi will be their sprinter. We must presume that the information reaching me is correct and that Modelo has abandoned, because he would have been their sprinter. And the gap is holding now. 2 minutes 6 seconds. 34 kilometers to race. A little bit at odds with the computer, which says 38. That could be crucial if your name is Jeremy Roy as to which is right. Well, just about as fast as they can go now. We shall put them up around 80 kilometers an hour here. Roy looking very much the time trialist he can be at the moment. Silver medalist in the French Championships. Not this year though, last year and in 2012. If you were to win today, it would be virtually a race-long breakaway. 300 meters into the day, you got clear. The race is 167 kilometers all up to date. He's looking pretty strong. He's battling that wind, don't forget. It makes it look pretty easy, I have to say, but it's coming in on his top left shoulder. No change in the racing at the front though. Team Sky concentrating on the job in hand. They've been in this situation many times before. One man chasing Jeremy Roy. A rider who could slip away if they turn off the concentration, but they'll think 2 minutes at the moment with 31 kilometers to go is doable very easily, and it's inside to 150 now. If they lose concentration for about 10 kilometers, then Jeremy Roy could take the day. A little bit more of the autumn vegetation appearing as we drop down from the dizzy heights, where the snow won't be too long in coming there. We race down towards the finish in Zhangjiakou. This is a man who hasn't won a race since August, and then some people wouldn't even call that a race because it's one of those summer events which are, should we say, made for television, done at Le Palestel in France. He was the winner there. His last notable victory was the stage of the Tour de Limousin in 2012, in the August of that year. Life is getting a little bit lumpy at the back of the race now as the wind starts to sweep these riders off the back. I'm sure they'll be rather happy when the peloton freewheel, just for long enough for them to take a few deep breaths, put themselves back in the back of that pack. You look down from the helicopter, there certainly isn't 133 riders in that pack. So we have lost riders out on the climb. We haven't seen them go off, but there's been a few split off there. No more news on the time gap at the moment. 150, just inside 150 is the last time we've got. Those vehicles going by are actually leaving the feeding zone and now racing to the finish. Chosen an area to get by, safe area to get by, straight and quick, so they don't offer any assistance to the peloton. And the big legs of the leader on the road, Jeremy Roy. And his 30th birthday in June, just before the start of the Tour de France, which he took part in. Well, he certainly taken no time at all to distinguish himself in this race this year. Been in front of the cameras since the start of the day. But now the gap is showing to having an effect here. 1:23 now. 29 kilometers to go. That's very unlikely. There's the peloton. It is quite a lot of riders not in that group now. That's a group of about 75, I would think. At least 50 riders left behind over the tops of the plains. There's no more obstacles in the way of the race. It is very, very quick. We run onto flat roads, flat good roads, down towards the finishing line. Dominic Nerds are down there from BMC. Probably asking how far to go to the finish. Two French members of Europcar sitting at the back in the green now. Nerds moving back up to the front now to tell his teammates how far to go. Some light refreshment for them as well, possibly. Well, there's a lot of head switching now, everybody looking at each other. Don't forget, you can join in the conversation on Twitter, which is hashtag TOB2014 on social media. Well, it's hurting, that's obvious now with Jeremy Watt. And the gap is inside 90 seconds and 26 kilometers left to ride, and these roads are still quite straight. There's the latest. I wonder if we can see what that says. I think it said 1 minute and a quarter or less. These boys seem to know that they've got it nicely under control. Lachlan Morton on the far side. Ryder Hezidal, nearest camera, the big tall Canadian rider from Vancouver. Reinforcements going forward. That's Alan Marangoni, the Italian on Cannondale, who tried to sprint forward there, joined alongside one of his teammates, Cristiano Salerno, his Italian countryman. No, I think Jeremy Watt is being told here, forget it. It's not going to happen now. 25 kilometers still to go, and just over 1 minute is the gap. They'll see him now on these long straight roads, I'm sure. The giveaway, of course, is often coming from the helicopter, which brings you your pictures riding just above the car here. And when you get down to this low level shot, you can see the road is still slightly up. Those legs must be aching now. 140 kilometers in the lead. Time to collect the bottles here for Team Sky. And unfortunately, it's a journey right back to the front of the race. Not sure who it is. It could be Cataldo, can't quite see. In fact, it's Phil Dignan. I can see his number, Phil Dignan, who's been deputised to bring back all of the bottles at 24 kilometres left to ride to the finish. And Digan's got to ride right to the front of that peloton. Nice crowd gathering at the finish at the moment. The riders are scheduled now just over 30 minutes to the finish. Might be slightly less than that. They've really picked up the pace now. They were behind schedule earlier. Well, he's not given up. He knows the situation, but he's certainly not given up completely. Seeing how it goes, what happens. Just over 20 kilometers since he went alone from that sprint point. Since the momentum was going, something had to be done. Everybody else been caught. He's being chased by what's left of the main field. Seems to be around 75, 80 riders in the pack. Another one of these false flats here over that little river. Appears to be pretty dry. Well, there they are. They're coming up the same slope now as he's just gone over the highway here. And for a couple of hours now, it's been really Team Sky with Camworth, who's on the front just now, helping out for Cannondale, the former rower turned pro bike rider. He's seen the cars go by. He knows they're probably 30 seconds back of him. At the end of the day, he's won a few prizes along the route, but there's no leader's jersey for him in any of the classifications. After this long breakaway, he's unlikely to pick up the points leader's jersey because there'll be maximum points for the stage winner. Still coursing through the mountains, but really basically heading down towards the finish, which is about 250 meters above sea level. Long season for professional cyclists, and it's nice to see that Jeremy Waugh still got his enthusiasm in October for the long escape, because at this time of the year the training is that much harder. All the major tours are behind, all the one-day classics are behind, and if you've still got a lot of enthusiasm at this time of the year, you can get some good results, which to many of the pros is very important for the contracts next year. With Cannondale and Garmin merging next year, some of the riders on both the original teams are losing their contracts because there simply isn't room for them in the merger of the two companies, and that's very sad for some of the riders who may have had a good season as well. Well, I reckon 35 seconds just now, maybe even closer. That's the rise in the backdrop there that they're just about to top. This is Jeremy Waugh just dipping out of sight for the moment. But he'll be aware now, with all the police outriders and their headlights on, he'll be well aware that they are coming, and the catch probably around the 20 kilometers to go point. been one of the toughest opening stages, in fairness, that we've had in the 4 editions of the Tour of Beijing. We didn't really introduce the hills until the 2nd year. Last year we had a mountain finish, which is retained for this year, and this was a very difficult start. It would have made a very good finale to a stage today at the start, because it would not have been a sprinter's finish at all. But with some 50-60 kilometers to bring them away from the plane down to the finish town, it has biased the sprinters, I think. Certainly looking that way just now. Sky have always believed it was going to be that way, the way they've ridden on the front today, very strongly indeed. 3 riders getting away from the gun, perfect scenario for the race to control. Had it been 8 riders, they probably wouldn't have allowed the escape to happen. They'd have chased it down. There's the peloton just underneath the highway. As we just briefly go out of sight of them, the gap is less than 30 seconds now. The Sky train bringing them forward. Dress rehearsal for the new high-speed train service that will start here in 2017 and make Beijing City just an hour away. It's going to be around 20 kilometers that they catch Jeremy Roy, which will have put him in the lead for 140 plus, nearly 150. Tough way to start the week, but it seems like the way to get rid of jet lag. Then we'll see the tactics change when they do pick up Roy. The sprinters will suddenly all be thinking this is their day, and then they're going to start to reappraise the whole situation. That makes it more difficult to keep control at the front. There they come, just in the backdrop. You can see now the air here is still a little poor. We're on the outside of town now, but it's quite a big city. Zhangjiakou. Because of the traffic in Beijing, to actually reach this area where the race is being held, it's around about 3 hours drive by car. Although if there were no traffic, you'd probably do it in an hour and 3/4, but there's a lot of traffic in Beijing. Apart from apparently 9 million bicycles, according to Katie McClure. Well, even the slightest of rises now are going to take seconds off that advantage. Well, that says it all, doesn't it? 15 seconds. The camera makes it look closer than it really is, but it's close enough to say it'll all be over at 20 kilometers to go. We're 20.6 from the finish right now. Long, long day. Hasn't seen the peloton since the flag dropped, and now Jeremy Roy is back in what's left of the peloton. I suspect that a 40 or 50 riders not in that peloton. And as far as we know, one has abandoned, Sacha Modolo, the sprinter on Lamprey. It's always tough. Many people say, why do they do it knowing they'll get caught? Well, the fact is that sometimes they don't get caught, but today it's been routine. Sky have clearly wanted this race to come together before the finish, and they've worked all day to make sure it happened. It's happened now. Next question for Sky is, can they control this race over the last 20 kilometers of the day? They definitely have the man who can win the sprint in Ben Swift. with his incredible third place this year in the opening classic in Milan-San Remo. Longest one-day classic at 300 kilometers. Well, job done. Now it's a matter of controlling the race. This is Lachlan Morton at the back having a drink. The Australian. There are 3 Australians in the race on Team Garmin Sharp. Had a very successful World Championships in Ponferrada, with the women also medaling in junior levels. The wind direction now seems to be, well, it's partially shielded by all the town now, because they don't seem to be having a problem with the wind at all. Just here. The last bend before the finish is the crucial one. Inside 19 to go. If nobody tries a late attack, most obvious one to me would be Adam Hansen near the end. Try and break up the rhythm of Sky controlling this race. Charel, number 15 there, Michael Charel, Frenchman on AG2R. Number 6 there's Enrique Sanz. He's ridden all 4 of the Tour of Beijing. And Movistar decided to move men to the front. The man moving up there's Jesus Harada, former champion of Spain. Oh, he's got a wet foot, a little bit of cramp there. There's Lachlan Morton at the back, stretching himself out. Peter Weenie on the left, Team Sky. The big experience on Orica Green Edge. And just hanging on to the back there, number 87, that's Tosh van der Sant, who's had his great day in the mountains and in the breakaway and is still sitting in the peloton. Now it clears to me that the wind is no longer a problem just now. I've got a feeling it's coming straight down the road at them as they go up this long stretch. And that would have been a killer to have seen that road and still in the lead by ½ a minute, wouldn't it? It would have been the catch anyway at 17 kilometres for Jeremy Watt, who has just been announced, not surprisingly, as the man to receive the Most Aggressive Rider award at the end of the day. In the lead for 145 kilometres. Well, from the helicopter, the peloton looks even smaller now. This is Yates, nearest camera. It's Adam Yates who's riding here, not his twin brother. It's a bit difficult to pick them apart, whereas they're identical twins when they're both in the same event. Those cones there are in a very, very precarious position. Those riders are just skimming them. Very difficult there. That's Enrique Sanz, who's on the left-hand side of them. All 4 tours for him. Adam Hansen also here has ridden all 4 tours. And so too has Steve Cummings riding his last race for BMC as well, as he goes over to MTN The only other man who's in the race who's ridden all 4 tours is Hayden Rolson, New Zealand rider on Trek. Well, nobody has challenged Sky. They may think 16 kilometres out a little bit too far to try something. I can't believe that nobody won't try before the finish, but maybe they want to be closer into town. Sky just keeping this up around about 45 kilometres an hour, which should stop any sudden acceleration from the others. That's their plan. .150 kilometres done, 16 to go. Well, hats off to Camworth. Came into the sport late, the rider in 3rd place there. He was an Olympic rower. He took up cycling and he turned pro in 2010 and joined the World Tour teams, and he's been a great asset. He's never won a race, but he's a worker for the team, and he's done a great job today, breaking up and working with Sky in the pursuit of those 3 riders. Calabuan nearest camera, right, in his first World Tour race, silver medalist the 2nd time in the first silver medalist in the under-23 championships, just finished in Ponferrada, and now he's a hot favourite for Orica Green Edge in his first World Tour race to get a stage win. He signed, if you like, a prenuptial agreement with Orica Green Edge in January this year. But in order for him to qualify to have a crack at the under-23 World Championships, in which he finished 2nd, he didn't become professional until after those championships. And this is his first race, and it's a World Tour event, and he is a very fast finisher and a confident young bike rider too. So in this field, he could well give people like Ben Swift a run for the money. But Orica will need to move him further up the line before the finish, that's for sure. It's almost as if they're trying not to come to the front in that pack behind right now. There's a lot of riders on AG2R moving riders towards the 4-2. .14 to go. Road still very favourable for fast riding. Pretty much stay like that all the way through to the finish as well. Well, they know now they're on the outskirts of the finishing city here of Zhangjiakou. No change at the front, still Boswell at the front, setting the pace here for Team Sky. Everybody happy to allow it to happen. Difficult to control when it comes to the finish. These roads are very wide here. Guys are not going to be pushed out of position too often by narrow roads and sharp bends, that's for sure. Therefore, high speed tends to stop them moving up the pack. Still Lachlan Morton at the back. Looks like it might be Jeremy Watt has also just slipped down the back a little bit here. No, it's not. It's one of his teammates. Morton has been sat at the back here. I don't know whether he has got a bout of cramp, but he's been last man of the peloton for a long time, and it makes for hard riding. Well, these turns are not going to put Sky out of the rhythm. They're bringing this race into the last 12 kilometres. Cataldo driving with Camworth in second place, looking pretty concentrated. Good start to the year, Dario Cataldo at the front, in second in the stage race, Coppi and Bartoli, the two famous Italians post-war, and he also won the time trial of that race, so that got him off to a good start to the year. His primary job is doing what he's doing now. Little flick of the arm to bring through Cameron Worth. His turn at the front. Cannondale will say farewell after this event to the World Tour Series and reform along with Garmin Sharp as the same team next year. No official name being publicised as to what it will be called, but it will be a merge of the two companies. And it's actually put a few riders out of contract too, because the merge can't take some 50 bike riders on the books. Bosenhagen on the right hand side. Having a quick word there with Cataldi, seems to have dropped back. Lamprey lining up, and the boys in white trying to move Caleb Ewan up nearer the front from Orica Green Edge. The riders with overall ambition have got none other than to finish safely in this pack, where they'll get the same time as the man who wins the stage, although there is a small win bonus of 10 seconds. 6 and 4, first three over the line. That shouldn't make too much difference between a sprinter and a climber in a few days' time. Inside 10. Nobody easing off the gas pedal at all here. The last three riders, of course, in that line doing no effort at all. They're looking to keep hold of Ben Swift. And if they keep speeds like this, the peloton will struggle to get round them, that's for sure. I'm sure they're aware of the sharp left-hand bend. It's almost 90 degrees as they sweep into the finishing straight, but it's a wide bend, shouldn't be dangerous. Then it's 350 meters straight up the straight. Bernie Eisel having words there on his radio and also shouting at the team. Eisel came to this team as the lead-out man for Mark Cavendish, who only lasted a year before he moved on. and Eisel was happy to stay with Sky. That was back in 2012. Eight kilometers to go, 5 miles to the finish. The peloton is absolutely flying down this highway, and the nature of the roads really doesn't lead to an attack at all. There was conjectured it would be about 30-40 riders come to the finish at the most because of the climbs in the beginning, but it looks to me as though we've got probably 70 to 80 riders in this group. Lotto in the centre, trying to move up, probably Greg Henderson. Looks like Greg in the backdrop of the 3 riders there. As these boys continue to keep the pressure on. There'll be a lot of teams believe they can win this stage. I think the standout sprinter is Ben Swift. And also Moreno Hofland of Belkin, but Belkin haven't brought anybody up here yet. They may have to freelance a little bit on the other teams. Sky are not going to let this down if they can, as Ian Boswell continues on the front here to keep the pressure on. Look how much power he's putting into this now, and the sole objective is to go so fast nobody can launch an attack, while at the same time keeping in position. Ben Swift at the tail. It's copybook racing by Sky just now, has been all day. It can of course go wrong, especially when you get the boys in red. Lotto Belisol lining it up, and it wouldn't surprise me to see a late move any moment now by somebody like Adam Hansen that would disrupt the attitude of the sprinters. A nice decoy to clear the way perhaps for Greg Henderson. Only one win this year for Greg. It was a good win. Second day in the Tour of Switzerland. Before that he celebrated a race I was commentating on actually in Geelong in Australia in January 2012. Not too far away from where he lives in Melbourne. The little figure of Caleb Ewan is tucked in there. I wonder what he's thinking today. His first World Tour event, his first clash with the titans of world cycling. And he's come in as a man with a favourite tag to win a sprint here this week. Now from the top, defending their position with distinction, Team Sky, all of their team in a straight line. Little rush up the inside now to disrupt things, or they're going to be squeezed out for the moment. And this right-hand bend here is causing a bit of a problem to hold position. Get some idea of the movement down there from the helicopter now as riders are trying to put their sprinters in position. We are now just on 5 kilometers to go. Far side in the white there is Giant Shimano. They haven't got their top sprinters with them, but they do have riders who could deliver. The big one is the man that won a stage at the last day last year, Luka Mecic, Slovenian rider. And now Sky are having a real problem controlling the surge they did expect. It looks like Ji Chen might be the rider from China on the front there for Giant Shimano. But the surge up the inside, the Pursuiter acceleration again from Team Sky has got them back in control. Lotto Belisol boys just about getting onto the shoulders of Ben Swift there and making a move. And that wouldn't surprise me if it's not Adam Hansen driving up towards the front. Coming up to 4 kilometres to go to try and disrupt the rhythm of Sky. Sky struggling now to hold the surge. It is Adam Hansen. If anybody can ride away, it's Hansen. He did it on a tougher day than this in the Vuelta a España and stayed away to win. But I think if he attacked today, it wouldn't be to try and win, it would be to disrupt the chase of Sky. But they've done well and they've held off the move. As they continue now, but they're going to have to use strong men here to keep the pace high. Well, this is the dizziness of the Tour of Beijing now as they go right round. Sorry about the picture freeze, but we got it back. As they do the reverse circuit here now to line up for the finish and the last 3.5 kilometres of the day. What a sensational shot that is. Still Sky holding it on the front, but they're losing players now, which is to be anticipated at this stage of the race. Adam Hansen in second place, but can't seem to do much about that. Now the attacks are starting. This is a surge down the left-hand side of the road. It could be Herrada here pushing on, but they're quickly switched across. Sky now, for the moment, are going to have to control from the back. All this to be expected. Giant Shimano in second place and Française des Jeux. But they haven't got the sprinters they would normally have. That peloton looking very small down there now. Maybe 50 riders, 55, hard to say. Sky coming up, and again they fought their way back into the picture. And that says a lot for Team Sky as they now control the race once again here. The rider who seems to have got on the front here, it looks like it's not David, it looks like it might be Boasson-Hagen who's came up to the front. Now there's only 3 riders left. Ben Swift is the third man there. And there's still 2 3/4 kilometres left to go. Swift is going to have to rely heavily on the 2 riders just in front of him now. But the acceleration off those corners, the peloton simply drops back into second place well and truly. Takes them a while to recover here on the straight. It is Edvard Boasson-Hagen on the front as he drives now. This is going to be a very, very strong sprint. It's up to Boasson-Hagen to hold that speed as long as he can, because there's a surge on the far side now by Lampre. They're on the left as we look here. This will be for Maximiliano Ricchesi, and now comes the white jerseys. Caleb Ewan, his head twitching in 3rd or 4th place. Second rider in white as he now gets the full pressure of a World Tour sprint here. Just on 2 kilometres to go now. Belkin are trying to get Hofland up into the sprint in that green helmet. Sky are doing a good job. They're under pressure, and I'm not surprised at this stage of the race. As they swing around here. Well, our computer, hopelessly out, shows 2 kilometres. This is the run to the finish. And Sky knew it. Omega Pharma Scripps Quickstep are trying to get control. But as the rush comes up towards the finish now, is it Steele Van Hoff who's going to make this towards the line now? There's a challenge coming. Sky again have lost control of this. And Caleb Ewan making his run, just being pipped on the line there. It was Giant Shimano who got over the line first though, and what a great sprint it was. But I'm just trying to work out just exactly which member of Giant Shimano it was, but I would suspect Luka Medček, completely caught off guard there by the left-hand turn coming, because according to the computer there were still 2 kilometres out on the road, but the riders knew where it was, and Luka Medček there just bursting out for Giant Shimano. I think Caleb Ewan will have got in second place. It looked as though Garmin Sharp had a rider up there, possibly Tyler Farrer. We'll wait for confirmation of that, but that's Medček down there, and there's no doubt he has assumed where he finished a year ago. Having won at the Bears Nest last year, now on day 1, it's come good this time around. So Luka Medček confirmed the winner of the stage. And a very good sprint finish, and well timed it was as well. We'll get a better look at that, I'm sure, in a moment. But Medček. There you can see the equivalent of the town hall here in the finishing area of Zhangjiakou. Now take a look at this again here now. That was the left-hand bend, the sweeper. Certainly caught me off guard. Our computer was saying 1.9 kilometers to the finish, but in fact it was 350 meters. Then came a run there. That's Tyler Farrar making a burst, and then Medček made his move. Caleb Ewan wasn't in it yet. He's still off the picture, but it's a long way up here. And Medček made most of the wind, which has dropped immensely, but it's still a headwind sprint finish. Ewan coming on the top of the picture, and Medček getting over the top of Farrar. It looks as though it was Ewan second, Tyler Farrar in third. That, of course, will go. But I'll tell you what, that's Sasha Modolo in fourth, and he was reported as having abandoned the race. But there he is, crossing the line in fourth place. And Caleb Ewan on the left. First outing for him in a World Tour race, and second on the line. But Medček getting the victory as he did at the end of this race 1 year ago. So he's looking as though he enjoys his trips here in China. And that's a very good result for Giant Shimano. First win since he won the last day of the Giro in June. So it'd be nice to be back on the winner's podium for him. It's only his 6th win of the year. Last year it was the 5th and final day of the Tour of Beijing. Now it's day 1. All that's subject to confirmation, but that's what it looked like from the pictures there. With it will come the leader's jersey. He had the lead in the Tour of Catalonia this year as well for a couple of days when he won the opening stage of that event. So Medček, who speaks English, will try and catch up with him in a moment and just see what he has to say about that. Clearly the riders knew exactly where they were on course. That left-hander being crucial. And there's the confirmation. Luka Medček wins ahead of Caleb Ewan, Tyler Farrar and Sasha Modolo in 4th place. Nicholas Mace of Amiga Pharma Quickstep. Moreno Hofland didn't really get into the action, finishes 6th. Steele van Hoff in 7th. Boy van Poppel and Olivier Legac, Français de Jeu, in 10th place. Top 10. A little bit hilly today. Time not particularly revelationary. 4 hours 22 minutes for 167 kilometers. But at the end of the day, the riders coming in on just about the slowest schedule of the day. But I don't suppose Luka Medček is going to be too worried about that. There's the podium down there. We'll do our best to have a word with Luka. He's just won his 6th race of the year. He only got 1 last year, and it was in this race itself, the last stage of the Tour of Beijing. That was at the Bird's Nest, and that's where we go on the last stage this year as well. That's the crucial bend. 350 to go from that corner. But because of the headwind, you need to make a fairly late run. Ben Swift's run coming far too late. I wonder if the Sky Boys got caught out not realizing that was the finishing road, because they were well out of position at the end of the day. Tyler Farrar also leaving the Garmin team at the end of the year for MTN Quebecer. Being taken on board by Medček here, who is hanging best. Then a late run by Caleb Ewan, just claiming 2nd spot there. Well, for the youngster, he's going to feel pretty happy with his first day out in a World Tour event. Second in the under-23 championships a couple of weeks ago in Ponferrada. He's already had a fourth in that previously as well. He's been a World Junior champion on the track. Interested spectator who's just seen himself on television. That's the finishing straight. So again, this is the overall ranking. It's the same as the stage result, but the time bonus is taken into account. So Callebaut in second at 4 seconds. Julian Kern done well. He's finished in that peloton, so he holds third place. In fifth, Jeremy Waugh, who's in the break, he's in fifth place. He's finished in the peloton as well, and so did the other breakaway man, Tosh van der Sande. So let's go and hear the interview then with the winner today, Luka Mečík.
Luka, fantastic. Back-to-back wins at the Tour of Beijing, having won last year in the last stage and the first stage this year.
That's a fantastic comeback to this race, and I hope we can do also something more this week.
Last year this was the start of your World Tour career, but now you're an established player at this level, and it was a good win.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, I feel honored that I can be a player on flat stages, so that's a big compliment for me for the second year as a professional.
What did you make of the stage? Because it's a little different, the surface up at top of the mountain.
Oh, it was really hard. I mean, climb itself was steady, and then just those punchy climbs, and yeah, high altitude also affected, so it was hard and long day.
What about the finish? Because it was a long sweeping turn and then a right and a left before the finish, but you're in the right position.
Just before those roundabouts, when we came from the big road, the team did fantastic job, so they bring me in front, and then I just tried to stay on the good wheel. Actually, I thought the last corner will be a little bit more tight, but then luckily for me it was open, and yeah, I was on the fantastic place. I timed sprint really good, and I'm happy for win.
Tomorrow another sprinter's stage most likely, so another one for you. Maybe go back to back to back.
Yeah, that would be nice.
All right, well done. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Well, I couldn't hear the interview, but I hope you could back home. And Mečík there looking pretty pleased with himself, I must say, as he talked there with Dave Colbert. Having opened his account at the start this year of the Tour of Beijing, he opened it at the finish a year ago by winning the last stage. So Mečík gets the leader's jersey as well. This is the point standing here. By virtue of the win, he holds the points lead, but Callebaut will be the man to wear the leader's jersey tomorrow, as Mečík will have the race leader's jersey itself. Tyler Barrett third there, Sacha Modelo fourth, then out on course, Julian Kern scoring points, so he's coming there with the best situation. Most aggressive rider of the day, not surprisingly, was Jeremy Waugh. So he'll be receiving his jersey for that, and Callebaut also will be the best young rider in the race, so he may have to wear that jersey tomorrow, which would see the points leader's jersey drop down to the third place rider overall, which would be Tyler Farrell. Not the end of the hills, of course. It's just been an undulating day, a fairly challenging day, I think, from most of the riders' point of view. Some 65 riders finishing in that main field, so along the way we lost half the field through the hills, and they haven't come in yet, to my knowledge. Clock is still counting, and it's over 10 minutes since the ride is finished here. Tomorrow, though, it's only 147 kilometres, so it's 20 kilometres shorter than today. There is the sun, which is being shrouded by the atmosphere here.
So, ladies and gentlemen, the first presentation, welcome to the awards of stage one of the stage winner. We welcome Mr. Li Chong Li, Deputy Director of the Beijing Sports Bureau, and Mr. Hai Chong Li, Director of the Beijing Sports Competitions Administration Center.
首先要颁发的是今天第一赛段的赛段冠军，我们欢迎今天的颁奖嘉宾，欢迎河北省体育局副局长李东奇先生以及北京市体育竞赛中心海正先生。
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your stage winner here in Zhangjiakou, the winner of today's stage from Giant Shimano, Luka Metsket.
第一赛段赛段冠军来自捷安特喜马诺车队的卢卡梅兹格奇。下面有请李东奇先生以及海正文先生为获奖车手颁奖。
Ladies and gentlemen, the winner of stage one of the Tour of
came a year ago. His second has come this time around. He joins the only rider in a handful of them to have won 2 stages of the Tour of Beijing.
Ladies and gentlemen, each day we present the red jersey for the leader of this year's race. To present the red jersey, we present Mr. Chen Ji, Deputy Director of the Beijing Sports Bureau, and Mr. Du Weidong, President of Zhangjiakou, Beijing.
接下来要颁发的是目前个人总积分排名第1名。下面有请颁奖嘉宾北京市体育局副局长陈杰先生、捷库北京体育服装有限公司董事长杜卫东先生。
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the new leader of the Tour of Beijing, riding for Giant Shimano, Luka Metsket.
个人总成绩第1名，同时也是今天的赛段冠军，把最热烈的掌声送
So
给
for the second time this year, Luka pulls on a leader's jersey. He did it in March for a couple of days in the Tour of Catalonia. And it could well be the same this time around, that when he comes to what should be a sprinter stage again tomorrow, over 147 kilometres.
He pulls on the red jersey. He will wear that tomorrow on the road. We ask to be presented with the special gifts from the sponsor, Mr. Du Weidong, the president of Zhangjiakou. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your new leader of the race, Luka Metsket.
再一次把最热烈的掌声送给目前个人总积分排名第1的来自喜马诺车队的卢卡梅兹格奇。
The new leader of the race with that fantastic sprint. Thank you, Luka. Here's the red jersey. Thank you to our presenters. We're going to move on now to the points jersey, the green jersey, signifying the leader who's accumulated most points on today's stage.
接下来要颁发的是冲刺王荣誉，冲刺王代表着的是今天的冲刺积分排名第1。
Well, it's going to make no difference. The man that steps up is so often the case on the first stage. Be Luka again.
The green jersey award.
Although tomorrow I suspect it will be worn by Caleb Ewan or indeed by Tyler Farrell. This is a little look around the course of the day here as we say goodbye to you here. The riders now moving off. As we're looking here, it was a day for Team Sky, but not in the end as they continued. So the riders, having enjoyed 167 kilometres in dry conditions at least, Sky controlled all the way until the very end when they lost control. And then in the sprint finish, it came to a victory for Luka Metsket, and that's his 6th win of the year. So well done to Luka. Tomorrow he starts in the red leader's jersey. I'll see you tomorrow on day 2, a ride of 147 kilometres. So until tomorrow, it's me, Phil Liggett, saying goodbye for now.
Also to Luka Metsket after a fantastic